welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, Indiana's special initiative that celebrates the undying entrepreneurial spirit of micro, small and medium enterprises. Here's what we have lined up on the show for you tonight. On our Insights segment, I'll bring you a conversation with Lifespan. And on Bright Sparks tonight, we're featuring SMI-coated products and the Indian Art Studio. Now, statistics show that nearly 10% of all Indians are diabetic, and while our predisposition towards this lifestyle disease is high, its awareness, unfortunately, is not so. Something that Ashok Jain, the founder of the Lifespan chain of diabetes management centers across India, has sought to change. I caught up with him to ask him about the role of technology in this particular healthcare space. Here's what he had to say. Let's start by talking about your own entrepreneurial journey. I do know that you have a personal reason why you decided to get into healthcare, coming from a very different background and also into this specific area of healthcare. Maybe you can start there and also talk to our viewers about how they can perhaps identify between what they think is a great idea and what can be a commercially viable idea.
Right. My entrepreneurial journey started when I was in Cadbury's, because I did a lot of entrepreneurial work, starting a lot of things for Cadbury's in terms of different businesses. So therefore the seed of entrepreneurship was there. And in 2000 I started getting into healthcare entrepreneurship. And today we have 3 companies, one which works with various healthcare companies in terms of their strategy and communication. Another was a large media in doctors' waiting room. We've got 6,500 television where we educate about 6.5 million people every month. And then we've got Lifespan, which is a chain of diabetic clinics focused only on diabetes.
Okay, so since you're talking about diabetics and diabetic care in India, I would really like to understand from you what the state of critical healthcare in India is right now, specifically for diabetics, and how MSMEs can really tap into what I presume are the gaps.
Right. Every Indian needs to be worried about diabetes. 10% of India is already diabetic. Close to 40% of people beyond the age of 50 are diabetic. But more importantly, close to 20 to 25% people in India are pre-diabetic. What it means is 1 out of 3 Indian is either diabetic or pre-diabetic, which means every Indian has to be really, really worried about diabetes, because 1 out of 3 Indian is suffering from either diabetes.
What makes us so prone to diabetes then?
Few things. One is a genetic conditions. It's well known around the world now that Asians of this part of the world have a genetic we have a diabetic gene.
Okay.
The second thing is the sudden affluence which has come to us in terms of eating junk food and sitting a lot and also not sleeping well. So I think this all contributes for us to becoming diabetic.
So what about the business opportunity then that healthcare provides in India?
I hate to call it a business opportunity. It's an opportunity to do good for the world. And if you do good, the business already happens. So therefore, in terms of opportunity to do good, it's huge, because the numbers you're talking about are staggering. And the consequences of that is very, very high, because diabetes leads to heart problems, it leads to kidney problems, it leads to eye problems. It's the single largest cause of blindness in India. 70% of diabetics die out of a heart problem. Most of the kidney problems come out of diabetes, and there are 1 lakh amputations which happen in India because of diabetes. So therefore the opportunity to do good is extremely well, and therefore every doctor, every person, every medical device company, every pharmaceutical company, it is their duty to make sure that diabetes is highlighted and diabetes is controlled and diabetes is managed.
Fair enough. I want to talk about also the role of technology in the kind of work that you do.
Right.
What is the opportunity for MSMEs to be able to use technology in critical care?
Doctors are not technology savvy, and therefore the MSME or a lot of companies need to focus on how to make doctors technology savvy. Because more doctors become technology savvy, it will then move to the patient. And because the doctors are not technology savvy. Second, most of the patients are 45, 50 plus. Therefore, you require technologies which are simple. I mean, you need something like a WhatsApp for diabetes, and that's going to help. And these are people who are older and larger, them may not be all that educated, and therefore you require easier technology to help them. But technology can play a very important role, because the doctor-patient ratio in India is anyway bad, and given diabetes, the staggering number, it's even worse in diabetes. And also the fact that people don't go to a diabetologist, they go to either a quack or a family physician and things like that. The reach of technology will educate people, and I think there's a great role in terms of not just management but education of diabetes.
Okay. Since you were talking about, say, for example, WhatsApp groups, is there enough innovation happening in India when it comes to healthcare on the whole? And if not, what would your advice be for MSMEs who are saying, hey, that could possibly be an area for us to look at, but how does innovation happen then?
Serious work is not happening.
Okay.
The reason is simple, because technology is not ingrained in our systems in healthcare, starting from a doctor, where people are willing to pay for it. And therefore, what we need to do is grow a large number of people who start this revolution somewhere, and therefore then automatically people will start paying.
But I want to ask you if you had, a wish list in terms of what you would definitely like to see for the healthcare space in India from the government.
I think a simple thing would be to work with private entrepreneurs like us to do that. Because the government by itself, sometimes the implementation is not that good. They can think of ideas, they can think of things, but implementation could be a problem. And therefore, if they work with private entrepreneurs and do a private and a government partnership, I think that will be a great idea.
Okay. GST is something that everyone is looking ahead to and bracing for, in a sense. How is it really going to impact the healthcare industry?
First, like I said, implementation is the key to anything and everything. And therefore, whatever I read about GST, I still think implementation is going to be the key, and we are going to go through some difficult period because before the fruits come in. Healthcare services are not taxed today, and I think it should remain that way. There are 25 lakh doctors and various healthcare providers who are there, and taxing them would be a big problem, and also it will affect the millions and billions of patients who are diseased, and therefore the simple thing is GST should be kept out of the healthcare service.
What lessons, if any, can India learn from developed countries when it comes to healthcare? Or, are the problems in India unique and therefore the solutions for India are unique?
We can only get inspiration from abroad. You can't get that model and start working in India. Sure. Because like you said, it's not just the Indian problems are unique. Indian solutions are also to be unique, because like any other country, we are unique in our way of thinking, in our way of doing things, in our culture, in our methodology, and therefore we need to create Indian solutions. Yes, we can get inspired by what's happening in the developed world, but I think there will have to be Indian solutions to it.
Okay, speaking of what's happening globally, the Indian economy, we have a lot in terms of the economic calendar this year. There's a lot that's happening in the globe as well. What, if you had one piece of advice for our viewers, should they be doing in terms of insulating themselves from the changes that are happening in this very volatile time? It's
very difficult. I mean, all these black swan events which happen, you can never insulate yourself from them. I think the only way you can do is to earn more and to save more. I don't think I'm an expert in this area at all. And the way the economy is moving so fast, it's very difficult for anybody to keep pace with it. You will only have to respond to it rather than saying, I can do something about it.
One of the things, in fact, I think that we should talk about, Ashok, is you've been reeling out statistics which are very scary. Is there anything that needs to be done urgently in the field of education about diabetics? Should it start at the school level? Should it be higher? Absolutely. And how do entrepreneurs really work in that area?
Absolutely. Education is the key to diabetes. And therefore, Lifespan is actually a joint venture with Times of India in terms of educating people and doing that kind of work. The key is educating, and right from the school level, if education happens, you can do. So a lot of entrepreneurs can actually build business models around in terms of educating people only on diabetes, and I think that will help a nation a lot.
Before I let you go, any success mantras that you'd want to leave our viewers with that has really held you instead, and you would love for our viewers to be able to emulate that?
Oh, those are all cliched words like passion, hard work. I think the biggest one is improvisation every day. Okay. I think the one thing which we need to look at when we start a business is plan A, plan B, plan C never works. It's somewhere plan Z or plan X which works for you. And the only way to go from plan A to plan X is daily improvisation. And I think that's the success mantra.